Hello everybody, this is Nick Totaro, Professor of Information Systems and Computer Science, Lakeland Community College. As you keep working towards being a security expert, cybersecurity expert, you come across things. And in this video, I'm going to introduce a concept which I call rogue user, rogue service, rogue device. And what that basically is when somebody, not out of maliciousness, but they will add something to the network, they'll add something to their computer that will have unintended consequences. As these devices and the software becomes more and more ubiquitous, easier for the end user to use, that end user will begin to start introducing things to their computer or potentially their networks. Routinely, users will bring their home equipment. I've read stories where people bring their home routers. They plug them into their corporate backbone, and that's a rogue device. First of all, they didn't have permission to do that, but they probably didn't set up the security appropriately. That individual wasn't being malicious. They were just trying to build a little wireless network in their office or at their desk area. We see the same thing with a lot of these remote control software that are very, very small. They have a very small footprint. The most common one is something called VNC, Virtual Network Connector, and it's installed onto somebody's machine. They set it up. The setup level is not that challenging, and then they access their machine from someplace else. Again, it's not meant to be malicious most of the time. It just means that people often just want to have that convenience of accessing their work computer from home. So in this video, I'm going to introduce a rogue service. Basically, I'm going to show you, it's fairly simple. I'm not demonstrating that, but the unintended consequences that are associated with that. So let me go up to my screen. All right. And in the screen, over here is Tokyo, and over here is Godzilla. I'm going to treat Tokyo, the Tokyo machine, as the victim, but the potential attack machine. And then over here is my Godzilla or my Kali machine. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install a service on the Tokyo machine. Now, I'm going to assume that I'm an end user. I have a little bit of knowledge, and all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build this machine that I can make a connection to it from someplace else. I'm going to introduce a rogue service. So this is basically going to become some kind of server. We see this all the time. Again, it's not malware, it's not malicious, it's just an individual. They're trying to make their lives easy, so they think, you know what, I can easily do this. I do this all the time. And one of the things with a rogue service or a rogue device is they tend to be very easy to set up. So I'm going to go to my Tokyo machine, and it's an Ubuntu machine. And I've watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos on this, so I know what I'm doing. And I'm going to go to Settings. My machine's running very slow today. It is running. And under Settings, I'm going to click on Sharing. And in Sharing, here's a Sharing tab. I'm going to click that on. And down here, I have Remote Desktop. And I'm going to say, yeah, I want to set up an environment that I can connect into this computer over the network and basically see a virtual or remote desktop. I'm going to say, keep things really simple. I'm going to say Remote Desktop. Going to allow legacy protocol because that's what the guy on YouTube told me to do. I'm going to allow remote control. I'm going to keep the password, and here we start getting into dangerous practices. I'm going to keep the password really simple, right? So I can easily set this up and I won't forget it. I'm smart enough to know not to use my real password, so I'm going to give it a different password. I'm going to keep it simple, right? So now what I've effectively done was I've turned this client machine, this guest machine, into a VNC server, virtual network connection server, which would allow people to connect into it. And let me put it back over on the screen. Now, let me go to Godzilla. Let me go to my Kali machine, and now I'm going to pretend that I'm a bad actor. I am somebody who is looking for vulnerabilities. I'm not going to go through all the steps to do any kind of scanning. I'm going to keep it really simple. I've gone through all those steps, and I discovered a computer that seems of interest to me. So I'm going to be a little stealthy this time. I'm going to elevate my privileges with a sudo, and I'm going to say nmap, our old friend nmap, and I'm going to do a stealth scan. This is only establishes two of the three-way handshake, so it's a little stealthier, a little quieter. And since I know the IP address, or I learned the IP address, I discovered the IP address, I'll put it out there. And I'll do a quick little scan. And let's imagine that I discovered the IP address, and now I'm kind of getting more information. And I notice right away that there is a couple services there, MS WebP Server 3389. I could do some investigation out there. I notice that there's a VNC server, Virtual Network Connection Server. I've often used this example, but as when we're doing pen testing, we see VNC, it is throwing blood into the water because we know it's an easy setup. People tend to be careless about it. It's on port 5900. That's a well-known port. Now, it's not a well-known port, but it's an established port for VNC connections. The 1024 is a well-known port. So that becomes blood in the water, right? I see a VNC. Why does a client running a VNC? Now, there might be legitimate reasons. I'm not going to say there's not legitimate reasons, but again, I'm doing some pen testing here. So I'm going to run a program called VNC Viewer, and that's going to allow me to establish a connection to this VNC machine. So VNC Viewer are very, very small programs. They don't chew up a lot of resources. That's kind of interesting about them. They're usually embedded on most machines. If they're not on the machines, they're easily downloadable from the internet. There's many different flavors of VNC. This happens to be one of them. The one in the Ubuntu is built into Ubuntu. It's part of the default package. Other ones, you can install them on Windows machines. They can do remote desktop protocol, but I'm keeping it nice and simple. So I'm going to give it the IP address of what I'm looking for. Now, to save some time, I'm also going to give it the port that I see there. This is on port 59. All right. Again, I've done all this homework, etc. I'm trying to keep the videos down short, but I know what port it is, and I say, okay, let's establish a connection. And it comes up with a password. Now, we do have that first line of defense. Sometimes I've personally seen some of this stuff with no passwords. People try to keep it nice and simple. I've seen rogue routers with no passwords and just, handing out IP addresses. I happen to know what the password here. Again, let's have this turn off or suspend disbelief here for a second. Let's say I've done some investigation and I'm going to give it a common password. And it appears that it's authenticated. It's booting up. Now what I'm going to do is, if you look at this, I am seeing on this side over here, I am seeing the Tokyo computer. I've remote desktoped into or VNC'd into that computer. If I was to go to, it's a little slow. If I was to go to the terminal, again, I'm over here on the Godzilla side. If I was to launch a terminal, you'll see the terminal open up on the Tokyo side. So everything I'm doing on the Godzilla side, I'm doing on the desktop. And that's what remote desktop is about. It's that remote control. It's establishing that connection. Give it a second. There's usually be a little bit of a delay here. And there I am. I've personally seen this a lot, where people bring in software, they install software on their computer trying to make their lives easier. That's why in a lot of company policies, they say you cannot install software on your given computer. Now, what does this mean? It was a very simple demonstration of a rogue application. Somebody opened up a VNC server, and then they have remote desktop. Again, the user didn't do anything maliciously, but now maybe you can see a situation where it could be used maliciously. Maybe I don't do remote control, but I just allow that remote connection using this. So somebody can connect in and then you wouldn't even see the remote control aspect of it. So we need, as cybersecurity professionals, we need to be cautious and use the tools brought to our attention to look for these things. The network professionals, cybersecurity, they're constantly scanning the network and the system looking for things that shouldn't be there. And if they happen to see a VNC out there, that raises questions. Why is it that there? So quick little video about a little remote control software that is very common. There's hundreds of demonstration on YouTube about it. People use this constantly, but if they don't use it appropriately or they don't make their network people aware, most of the time network people say, no, you can't use it. We don't want you using it. And they soften up the security because they're trying to make themselves a little bit easier. So with that being said, hope you enjoyed it. Let's go out and learn something.